What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Driven Creativity Podcast. I am your host, Chris Corvan, and today we have one of my favorite people of all time, Bailey Gaus. Is that right, Gaus?
Yeah, yep.
Yes,
Yeah.
She is a writer, musician, co-host of an amazing podcast, but we're going to dive more into the creative process behind the writing and maybe a little dabble into the music today. From her poetry and horror stories to her passion for music, we're going to explore everything Bailey does. Bailey, it's great to have you here. How are you doing today?
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me on. Again, because we did one for the podcast that Ethan and I do, so I think this will be a lot of fun.
It's
without Ethan.
Well, you know,
because
when
he sucks.
when I'm not sitting here, you know, worrying if I'm going to be stabbed by a serial killer, you know, things are a lot better.
Yeah. A weight has been lifted. I'm joking. So yeah, no, I'm really excited to talk about anything and everything. So thanks for having me on.
Definitely. Let's kind of dive right into the writing and the storyteller aspect of your life there. What kind of inspired you to kind of start with the poetry and the horror stories?
So poetry started out as a way for me to kind of like it was a cathartic way of me to kind of get feelings out and stuff. So a lot of it I would say is pretty emo. But then I decided that I did like writing, and I had a lot of ideas because I'm a big fan of horror and things that are just creepy. And so I'm like, well, I have no experience to like make videos or anything, but I could at least write creepy stories. So I started with one, and I just shared it with like close friends and family and stuff, and they're like, this is really cool, like you should just start a blog and just write whenever you want. And I'm like, you know what, that's a great idea. So that's kind of how it started out, at least about 2 years ago. And it's just been really fun to be like, okay, like, and I don't know, I get like inspiration from either things that have happened to me in the past or just like seeing something and being like, that would be really creepy if this happened. Or yeah, so I don't know. Yeah.
It's one of those like for me personally, when it comes down to it, my cat is hollering in the background. I don't know if you can hear it, but when you watch something, it's that old childhood game of what if, where you see an event, you're like, okay, what if this was to happen right now? And when you're a lover of horror, it's kind of like, how far and twisted can this actually get? You're just, dude, it's a mailbox. What are you doing? And I'm like, no, it's not just a mailbox. You don't understand. So, kind of speaking on that, on horror, because it is such a visceral genre, what initially kind of drew you to it, and how do you kind of manage and balance meaningful storytelling with scary horror?
Yeah. So I would say I've always been a fan of things that are scary or creepy. I mean, when I was younger, I remember reading Goosebumps books, and then watching the Goosebumps show with friends. There was also another book series called The Bailey School Kids. I don't know if you ever heard of that, but they had some that was like, I think my teacher's an alien, or something not quite as creepy as Goosebumps, but it was still like kind of mystery creepy for kids. So that's kind of what started the whole thing, and I've just really enjoyed like suspense, thriller, horror, all of that. And within the last couple years, I've really kind of gone down the rabbit hole of trying to watch like all of the classics, whether it's Texas Chainsaw or anything like Twilight Zone type stuff. I don't know. So I'm a big fan of that. I really enjoy that. I wish I had, so it's funny. As somebody, I've not been diagnosed with ADHD, but my daughter has, and we have a lot of similarities. So it's hard for me to sit down and read stuff, which is hilarious because I'm a writer. So I listen to a lot of audiobooks and podcasts. But it's hard for me to focus. And if I do read, it's a little bit at a time. So I just read a Stephen King book. Took me about 2 weeks because it was off and on. But it was Dolores Claiborne. And it's not your typical dialogue like you would expect in a movie or in a book, but I did really appreciate it. Just like, so I'm a big fan of Stephen King, and a couple other horror authors, but also just kind of like creepypasta in general, like r/no sleep or stuff like that. I know it's kind of cliche and some people think it's cringy, but I enjoy that. And I would say that the stories on my blog kind of fit into those categories. So if you like that type of writing, check my stuff out, or else. I don't know.
Yeah, no, like, when it comes down, hi Jazzy, how are you? When it comes down to the reading versus audiobooks there, it was one of the things that I learned. Oh my god, really?
Yeah, my cat's right here too.
Oh,
she's like,
no. It's one of those things that I learned way before getting my diagnosis for ADHD is my brain loves to read, but it doesn't like looking at words. So
Yes.
I ended up skipping, like I didn't even realize I was skipping full sentences. Like,
Yes.
the Stephen King Dark Tower series is one of my all-time favorite book series. I can rant on that entire thing for so many hours. And then when I got the audiobook, I learned to love it even more because I saw everything I missed. Like I
Yes.
heard it and it changed everything. And
Yeah.
it was like, from that point, it's like, oh, my brain doesn't quite work like that. So yeah, audiobooks, audio storytelling, that's kind of why I fall into that genre, is just because
Yeah.
my brain prefers it for sure. So
Yeah.
I do get that. And you know, highly suggest, hey, go get yourself diagnosed, you know, just in case.
Yeah.
So out of everything that you've kind of written already, what's kind of one piece that really stands out as the one people should actually go and check out? Like, which one are you most proud of?
So the first one that I wrote is called Rend Lake. And my husband Adam and I had gone on a weekend trip, just the two of us. And there's an actual place called Rend Lake in Illinois. And we stayed at like this hobbit house. It was like an Airbnb. So they had like the big hobbit door or whatever. But it was surrounded by woods. And I had the thought, like, Rend Lake just sounds creepy AF. Like, what if there was a big cryptid hanging out in these woods that just surround the lake? So that's the first one that I wrote. That was an inspiration for it. And it's about a woman who goes on a weekend trip with her dog, and her dog runs away in the woods. And then she's chased and hunted down by this creature. So I would say, like, that's the one that I'm most proud of, but I think that's just because that was like the first thing that I put out there. I think it's really scary as an artist in any corner to put your stuff out there because not everybody's nice. And I feel like there's a lot of anxiety, at least for myself, to be like, it has to be perfect before I put it out there. And I had to kind of get over that. So that was the first one. So I would recommend that one. There's also another one called The Neighbors. So it's a 2-part story series. So that would be another good one that in both of those, Rend Lake and The Neighbors, I've had friends say that they liked those the most.
Excellent.
So
I'll
yeah.
make sure to drop them in the links below.
Yeah.
Kind of sticking on the cryptid side of things, because again, you're telling me things, and like 10 billion more questions pop in my head. It's like, which one do I choose? But because obviously with the podcast that you do and all that with Ethan, it's heavily revolving around cryptids and that type of thing. What about them draws you in?
So growing up, my dad was really into Bigfoot and aliens, and I have also kind of gone down the rabbit hole as an adult just because I like the idea of there being something out there that maybe we don't know everything about. And I feel like people aren't as open to or as willing to kind of like open their minds and accept that like maybe there are things that science can't prove exists quite yet. Because I'm also a big science nerd, and I would love for there to be someone in the science community to come up with proof of a cryptid or an alien. And some would argue that that's already happened specifically for alien life. But there's just a stigma, and there's still a lot of like controversy between the cryptid and the science community. So I just wish, so we'd all just like sit down, maybe have a couple drinks.
We just come together as a family. We're just gonna be a family. It's fine. It's totally fine. So kind of, which cryptids draw you in most? Like is there a specific visual look or something about them that really draws you in more than the others?
I would say anything. Like I like the idea of Bigfoot being real because he's already like he's similar to animals that we already have. So like people describe him as like a tall gorilla-like being, and we already have gorillas. And like if you believe in, I don't know, I'm gonna make myself sound crazy. If you believe in like evolution and stuff, it could be, a human. Or there are some people who believe Bigfoot is an alien and can like go through portals, and that's why they're not caught. That's a whole other thing though. But I would say Bigfoot kind of is like the top one. I'm a skeptic as well, so I'm not 100% sold, but the idea and like the mystery behind it is it's just intriguing to me, because I enjoy hearing stories and trying to debunk them, and I know that kind of makes me a fun sucker, but I'm a very like logical person, so I'm like, okay, where's the pictures? And they're like, oh, we didn't get any. Or like every UFO video that I've seen looks like it was recorded on like a Nokia 2001 phone, or like it just looks like shit.
You gotta keep one in your pocket at all times for those specific moments. All right, I don't care. Nokias will survive everything, so you gotta have it.
It's true. I used to have in like high school, my phone broke, and I'd use my dad's old Nokia. And that thing was a brick dipped in plastic.
Dude, it was the perfect defense weapon. It was paperweight, whatever you needed. It was there, man. And it had Snake on it.
It did. I could play Snake. Yep.
That's the only game you ever needed, really.
Yep.
So
anyway.
So really what it boils down to is you're a cryptid agnostic.
Yeah, you could say that.
You know what? That's a solid way. I'm very much the same way. I would love for there to be all of that shit out there. The only problem is I need proof. It's one of those things that I can't go on faith. As much as I would love it to be real, the skeptic in me is like, dude, come on. Come on. Yeah.
Well, and I feel like technology has advanced to this stage now where if there are videos, it can be really hard to tell if it's authentic or not. I mean, deepfakes are a thing,
even the new AI video coming out is like, you know what? Run that through a couple filters and all that, nobody would be able to tell that was fake. No one.
Right.
So like proving these things is now even trickier, because you have to sort through all the shit of people just trying to make a quick buck, right? And it's only going to get worse because, again, this is where we are now, as Philip DeFranco says, where we are now is the worst AI is ever going to be. It's only going to get more advanced, more, trickier to spot. So, it's hard to be a skeptic and it's hard to be a believer is really what it boils down to.
Yep.
So going back to the writing, we're here about the writing. focus.
Yes.
When it comes to emotions and themes and all of that, how do you approach tying in the fear and the tension with it? Like, is it something you're going into in a plot outline, going, I need to make sure to add some tension here? Like, are you planning it out? Are you just going with the flow and what feels scariest? Talk to me about your process.
Yeah. So I kind of most of the time I just word vomit. So I just start paragraphs and I then later go in and add stuff. So I'm kind of all over the place. My brain's a pinball machine. So that's how it works for me. But I do go back and edit several times to make sure that it makes sense to someone other than me, because I know what I mean when I write, and it can be hard to get that to your reader or your audience. So I've got a couple friends who I share stories with and have them like kind of get their feedback before I share it on the blog. So that's like, I'm very unorganized in the beginning, but before I post, I make sure, you know, I've dotted my I's and crossed my T's. I also listened to a podcast called Let's Make A, and then each season is a different genre. So they had, I think it was season 3, it was Let's Make a Horror. And so every episode, they go a little bit deeper into making like a short horror film. And they interviewed a couple different writers, I can't even think. They interviewed the guy who wrote Blair Witch Project, stuff like that. And one thing that really stuck with me from that podcast is to kind of write about what scares you, as like, because I feel like it's a little easier to kind of like, if I'm writing about something that actually scares me, like, for example, being buried alive. I am severely claustrophobic. So if I were to be buried alive and try to like put myself in that position, like, how would I feel? And like, what would I try to do to get myself out of the situation? Stuff like that. Because if I write about, I don't know, mice, I'm not scared of mice. Some people are. It can be a little more difficult to make it feel like it's genuine, if that makes sense.
Oh,
so I tried. Yeah.
Sorry, keep going.
So I try to write. No, you're good. I just try to write about things that are actually scary to me, or situations that are scary to me personally, because I feel like it's a little easier for me to just like make it sound more authentic.
Oh, for sure. And like it's a great way to go about it. I know a lot of my stuff does tend to go that way as well. The one thing that I've been trying to get more into is finding ways to take things that aren't scary and making them scary.
Oh, yeah.
I can send you the pilot audio story for it later, but there's one.
Yeah.
I call him Teddy, and I love Teddy. Teddy is amazing.
Okay.
It's a native myth. It's basically a cryptid from the native culture, and he's the tickle monster. He tickles you to death. And
oh my gosh.
Oh, I know. And I had a friend. I was telling her, I was like, I want to write a story about this, and she's like, that's not scary. There is no possible way you can make that scary. And I went, oh yeah. Oh no. You just fucking wait. And I did. I showed a bunch of people, and they're like, that is absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
So I will send you that one, because I'm a fan of it, and I want to turn that into a whole series. We can talk about that shit later, but I love it. I love it.
That'd be awesome.
So yeah, no, I get that concept of, especially when it comes to the more emotional side of things, definitely keeping it more relatable to yourself is easier, and at the same time, as I've talked about with other people, it helps you come to grips with these fears and helps you overcome things. Right. Kind of on that one, going into the poetry and all of that, how does that kind of play a factor into your poetry? Because you mentioned at the top there that a lot of it is kind of personal with you.
Yeah.
Do you find it helping you, or is it just an outlet and then you just
Yeah. No, I think it's so writing short stories takes a lot more mental energy. So I try to space it out, and I was on like a little hiatus between like May through now September. Just because I've been a stay-at-home parent, the kids are home for the summer, and between that and working part-time evenings and weekends, it's just like I have to prioritize and not run myself or like burn myself out essentially. So poetry is a little more cathartic for me to write about or to write, and it doesn't take quite as much time. I have a lot of poetry that I've just written like in my notes app on my phone and I haven't shared, but I do enjoy both of them. I think writing short stories though is more of an escape, because I'm able to kind of like put myself in a different situation, in a different scenario, and just kind of like be in a different place than where I physically am, if that makes sense. So they're both fun. Poetry is, I will say, like, people in the writing community have been nice and friendly either in poetry or short stories, so that's nice too. So
excellent. Along the lines with the poetry and all that, like you said, you have a lot of unreleased stuff. Like, are you thinking of doing a book collection or something like that?
Yeah, I would love to just kind of have a compilation or something, like a little coffee table book, for my poetry or my short horror stories. I also would love to see one of my short horror stories made into a short film. I myself do not have the resources to do that. I also am a writer, not an actor. So I feel like it would definitely not have to be me, because it would turn into like a satirical comedy, like a bad 80s horror type thing. So
those are also amazing though, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I do enjoy those as well, but I like my writing to be a little more serious, like scary. So
have you looked into the screenwriting? Like, do you know the process of switching it over to a screenplay?
I have not. No.
You definitely should. It is definitely something, if you have any questions, I could definitely help you out about. I know there's a bunch in the community that can as well. But it's a fantastic tool to have, because it actually helps your brain segment things into specific ways, and it's even if you never do anything with it, it's just a fantastic tool to have. So I do highly suggest that.
No, I'd love that. Thank you.
Tons of free stuff out there, and definitely lots of help from those of us in the film community.
Nice.
So let's kind of pivot towards the end here, because we're almost done with the first half an hour. Let's talk about your music, because I really wanted to talk about that last time, and we really didn't get into it. So you've been playing piano for 20 years.
Almost. Well, yeah, actually, I started lessons when I was 6, and I am 30, so 24 years.
Holy
I've
shit.
been playing.
That is a long ass time.
It's a very long time. I took lessons from when I was 6 years old up until high school. So that would have been at least 10 years of lessons there. I continued to learn a couple other instruments as I got older. So I learned, I started French horn in 6th grade, and I taught myself guitar, ukulele in high school. I got a stylophone, it's kind of a mix. I also played trumpet in high school because we had a marching band, but I grew up in a small town, and French horn is not a marching instrument, but the school was too poor to have like a mellophone, which is the marching version of the French horn. So I just skipped a trumpet and I was like, I'll join the trumpets because I can't march with a freaking French horn. So, but I started accompanying piano when I was in 6th grade. So I accompanied the junior high choir.
With the music stuff there, that actually brings up a very good creative point there. Like as you're writing, are you kind of writing your own musical score?
So I wish. I do have a lot of original pieces. I have yet to record anything, but they are all like solo piano pieces. I would love to get like a MIDI keyboard and download software to start making music so that I could have, like some other instruments in there to add to the piano songs that I've written. But when it comes to writing, I do have a couple of like instrumental albums that I like to listen to that are kind of creepy. There's I'm blanking on his name. The first artist's part of the name is Atrium Carcery or something like that. I'd have to look it up to be sure. But he has a lot of like good instrumental music that just kind of helps set the scene. And I would love to eventually have like a Spotify playlist that you could listen to while you read a story that I wrote, just to kind of make it more immersive and more fun that way.
Oh, definitely. So, and like I'm thinking more like when you're writing and creating, are you doing that in a musical style? Like, are you following a flow in your head as you would a piece of music?
It could be, because a lot of times, like, if I sit down at the piano and I come up with like a new like part of a song, I'm like, that sounds really good, and then I just kind of like go off of that. Very similar with how I write. Like, I might be like, I don't really like that, and then I'll be like, booyah, that's it, that's the money.
So it's very possible that without even realizing it, your musical training has actually trained your brain how to create. Because
I would say so. Yeah. I've always said that the piano is like the gateway instrument. Like they say weed is the gateway drug. Well, piano's the gateway instrument. So because piano's a good place to start, because you can start to learn scales, you start to learn how to use both hands doing different things that can go on to other instruments too. So
for sure. And I've always said I'm a firm believer that a song is a hit if it sounds good on piano.
Oh, well, yeah, or if it has a really good chorus that people can sing along with.
Oh, for sure. But yeah. like even thinking like the Korn acoustic sets, and they would throw the Korn music on piano, and you're like, that is fucking beautiful. It is so beautiful. And it's like that's how you know a song is good, is if it sounds good on piano or acoustic guitar, it's good.
Yeah. No, that's true. Yeah.
So I guess that kind of answers the question of if you listen to something while you're writing or not. So I think we're good on that one. How do you navigate kind of the emotional highs and lows that come with both writing and with making music? Like, do you have something that kind of helps you, get out of a mood if you're writing in a mood, or?
Yeah, I typically, when I do write, I try to be alone so that I can, because I hyper focus on things, and it can be difficult to get myself back in the zone if I'm sucked out. So I try to be alone when I do it, and then I just write, whether it's music or stories, until I feel like my brain's fried. So it could be like 30 minutes to 3 hours, and just like be like, okay, this is a good stopping point, because I am so emotionally and mentally drained that I'm not going to be productive if I keep going past this point, and just kind of like like stopping what I'm doing and then be like, okay, well, why don't I just like chill for like 15 minutes now, get something to eat, drink, and then I can go into whatever else. So, but I wouldn't say that I've ever been like so upset after, which there is, it's the story Rend Lake, I feel like is the most I should have put like a trigger warning earlier when I recommended it. It is gruesome, and there is some animal cruelty that happens in it. And I felt weird writing that one specifically because I was in the backyard on my laptop watching my kids play on the swing sets as I'm writing about how this cryptid attacked a dog. So, you know, I feel like life's weird.
Creatives are weird, man. We do weird shit.
Honestly,
like really.
Honestly,
some of the most tragic shit I thought of was while my daughter was playing at the park, and I'm just sitting there and going, "Oh yeah, that's depressing too." Yeah, we'll do that one too.
Yes, yeah. But I know this is kind of sidetracking, but I do really enjoy just the creative process. Like even when I go to the movies to watch something and I think like this started out as an idea, someone wrote it down, somebody showed it to someone else, they got the funding for it, and this was the end result. And I just love that, especially when it's stuff that is just fucked up. Because it's like, okay, I'm not the only one who thinks about these things, or you know, says like, oh yeah, this would be really messed up if this happened. And I don't know, I love being like what I want to say, like thrown off course when like unexpected things happen, because I feel like a lot of current movies are like cookie cutter. So I have watched quite a bit of like short horror films on YouTube. And maybe that has to do with independent versus movie tycoon companies type thing. I don't know. That's a whole other thing.
It is a big debate and a big difference because there is something to, you know, AAA movie companies and production companies going, okay, the bottom line is we need to make money, and the creatives attached are like, okay, but I still have a vision, and they have to kind of find a balance between the two.
Right.
Whereas independent, low budget shit, it's like, I'm doing this because I want to, and it's going to be fucking weird.
Yes. Yes. That's what I love. And I feel like that's why I love the Terrifier series. That is which I'm excited to see the new one.
Oh my god, that series is so weird.
It really is.
Holy shit.
Yeah, but I love it because the first movie especially feels like a bad 80s movie.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Horror movie. And I love that shit. Like,
for sure. Okay, yeah. So we're just about to go into the rapid fire here and wrap up the main episode, but I think the biggest question is, what do you have on the horizon?
So since I've been on a hiatus, I don't have anything ready to post on my blog quite yet. I do have about 6 or so stories on my blog you can read that I've shared from last year. But I do have a lot of ideas written down in my notes folder on my phone. So it's just a matter of sitting down and putting it all together on my computer so that you can read it. But I do a couple of ideas that I have. Have you ever heard of a death angel? Or angel of death?
Yes.
That's what it's called. So this one is, I know this is extremely messed up, but whatever. So I had an idea of someone being in a car accident, and calling 911. The ambulance arrives. You think you're going to be saved. And then the paramedic stands there and watches you die. Apparently that has happened before, and I did not know that until I made a post on Threads a couple months ago about the idea, and people were like, I would love to read that. That sounds messed up, whatever. I'm here for it type stuff. And so I would love that idea, because to me, that's something that scares me. To think that you're going to be helped by someone and then they just nope on out. And people are... Your cat's moving your microphone. I was just going to say, people are messed up, and you never know people, unfortunately.
So true. Well, yeah.
Anybody could do that. Yeah.
Especially when it comes to people with power. Like, it's very much a flip a coin, take your chance. Yes, Gracie. Hi. That's a fantastic story. Just don't. Okay? I'm trying to have a lovely conversation.
Is Gracie an all black cat?
No, black and white.
Some white?
Tuxedo.
So this is 11. She's all black.
Oh, I just got cat hair up and nose.
Hi.
Oh, man. Look, there's a cat right there on the screen.
There's a kitty cat.
There better not be another spider on the roof. God damn it. Anyways, as we turn into the all cat podcast. Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so let's now dive right into the rapid fire questions here.
Sure.
Favorite horror author?
I'm going to have to say Stephen King.
Solid choice. First song you learned on piano?
The first advanced song I learned was Fiorelise by Beethoven in 6th grade. So I was...
That song so much.
I don't know, 10? I was 10 when I learned that.
There's just something about that melody that just triggers in my... I just love it. Oh, it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be my phone, my ringtone back in the old Nokia days.
Oh, nice.
One word to describe your writing process.
Unhinged.
Solid word. Roller derby or piano concert?
It depends on the day and my mood, but I'm gonna go with roller derby.
Solid.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite subgenre of horror?
I'm not really sure. I kind of have a couple different ones. I would say supernatural or just like a thriller. I don't know.
Both solid choices that I love. Favorite horror trope?
Something with a twist at the end, like whodunit type thing. I really like that, like the mystery idea. But also, I mean, the standard, like, man with knife chase woman through house. That's,
the final girl circuit.
A classic. Yeah.
And then coffee or tea?
Coffee, for sure.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, Bailey, we're going to wrap up the beginning part, the main show here. It has been an absolute pleasure. I can't wait to see all this other stuff and make sure everyone goes and reads your stuff. Where can people find you?
So I have a Instagram account specifically for my poetry. It's bgaus.writes. That's BGAUS.writes. And then I do have a blog. And I did pay for the domain, so you can just go to baileygaus.com, which is kind of cool. So that's BAILEYGAUS.com. You can read there.
Absolutely perfect. That was beautiful. Now I just need you to say goodbye to everyone.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me on the show and just like letting me shoot the shit with you.
For our Patreon and cafe members, make sure to stick around as we're going to go off the record here. If you're not signed up, you probably should, because the cafe is awesome and Patreon helps us do a whole bunch of really cool shit that I have planned. My name is Chris Corvan. You can find me everywhere at Chris of the Void. Remember, stay creative, stay inspired, and until next time, see ya.